Excited to talk about AI, fun topic. Who's this? Who are we looking at? Who's on the screen here? Who knows? This is not Justin. Justin is the next iteration. Who is this? Father Justin. Who knows? Raise your hand if you know Father Justin. Father Justin lost the collar 2 days after he was digitally defrocked. Who knows the story of Father Justin? Go ahead.
Catholic Answers came out with an AI version of a way to ask any question possible according to the Catholic Church and the Catechism. Came out with Father Justin. 2 days later, came out with just layman Justin. And
what was the controversy? What could go wrong?
Confession. I'm thinking about if some people can they confess their sins to an online AI priest.
And he said yes. So the pillar. Who subscribes to the pillar? It's good order. Yeah, read the pillar. Yes, the pillar is the one that kind of spearheaded this. Everybody, I'll go back. It was a little bit creepy. It was early. It was April of 2024, way back in those heady days of 2024. And they did. They rolled out. AI was coming on board, and it could digest information and synthesize and talk in human language. They said Catholic Answers is like, hey, let's come up with an avatar, and they came up with Father Justin. It was April 23rd, 2024. Immediate backlash, right? I remember seeing about this on Twitter, and of course, PSG is very tuned into this world of tech and Catholic world, so everybody was talking about it. And you could go and you could ask questions, and there was people that documented. They asked, "Will you hear my confession?" He said yes, and he gave absolution. And they asked, I think the Pillar article, they asked, can I baptize my child with Gatorade? And he said yes, that is okay. So like those are the ones, everybody remembers the big headline story. So then they pulled back, and Father Justin became just Justin. He's still up there now. I bring that up because, why do we need to talk about AI and as Catholic fundraiser professionals? We're going to get into that, right? So this is a great example. Just put a pin in for a moment. But as we walk through this, I want you to leave this talk with a better understanding of what the heck AI is, right? And more specifically, what it isn't. Okay, so that is a win for me. If you walk out of here feeling like you're a little bit more equipped to digest the headlines that you're seeing, right? And when people talk about AI, you will be equipped to understand, okay, that makes sense or that doesn't make sense, or I understand now how this all works. As Peter mentioned, how do I know anything about this? I want to be very clear. I am not an AI expert. I'm not building anything in the AI world. I use AI. But what I am is I live at the intersection of a couple different things. I know a whole lot about fundraising. I've been working in Catholic fundraising now for 20 years. I know a whole lot about building software. We have 3 different software products. We work, as Peter mentioned, in 120 dioceses. And we know enough to be dangerous about AI, right? So that's I want to be very clear. We are, and I think that background gives us the ability to talk as a normal human would talk about AI, which is another tough thing. Talking about somebody that is really passionate about AI is like talking to a Martian, right? It's very difficult to have a normal conversation and understand what the heck they're talking about. That's not a concern you need to have with me. I am not that smart. I am a simple man. So we'll talk through what AI is, what it isn't, and hopefully have a really good discussion here. I think everybody actually, let's just start here. Who uses AI maybe once a week? Let's see a show of hands. What do you think? Is that 2/3 of the room, give or take? Maybe 3/4? Yeah. Who is absolutely vehemently opposed, like we'll never use AI? There's more than just you. You're just the bravest one here. Okay. All right. Does that shock anybody? About 3/4 of the people in this room say they use it about once a week. Okay. Go ahead. Great question. So I guess, yeah, so let's redefine the terms. Let's find out if it goes down. Use AI in the sense that you're going to OpenAI, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, opening up Copilot inside of Excel, something like that. Who does that once a week? All right, no different. Okay. All right. And thank you for raising your hand and being brave enough to do so. Everyone in here is just judging the heck out of you right now. They're like, oh man, how does that guy live? I think everybody has a moment. I'd be curious for the folks that all raise their hand. I think everybody has a moment where like it really clicks for you, like, oh my goodness, like this is crazy, right? So I'll tell you about my moment. I will find out if it's similar to some of yours. Mine was this past summer. I live in Omaha, Nebraska. Anybody ever been to Omaha? Yes. It's a great town. Home of Creighton basketball, College World Series, Berkshire Hathaway. It was hot this summer. Just unhealthily hot, like 102 degrees in Omaha. It's sweaty, right? It's not your dry heat, Lisa, that you guys have down here. It was absolutely brutal. And of course, what happens when it's 100 and some degrees and 90% humidity? What happens when you're a homeowner? Your air conditioner goes out, right? Which is exactly what happened, right? Right in the heat of the summer, and we were in trouble. I got 3 kids, I've got a wife, and everybody's miserable, and they're all mad at me because the air conditioner went out. So we got bids, and we got bids from a couple firms, Burton and Exarban. Who knows what Exarban means? Yes. Did you guys know that? Do other states, did you hear it, what he said? He said it's Nebraska backwards. Exarban? Ah, right. I have learned in giving this presentation that that is a uniquely Nebraska thing that we do. If you live in Nebraska and you look for, heating and air conditioning, you look for a car, it's Exarban everything, right? Exarban heating and cooling, Exarban car repair, Exarban pool clean, like everything is Exarban. And that is truly, like nobody else has an example of that from another state. See, now you're going to learn 2 things. You're going to learn about AI and you're going to learn that Nebraska really likes spelling its name backwards. So we got bids, and we got bids from Burton, we got bids from Exarban, and they looked like this. And my aha moment was I took those 2 proposals, which were incredibly detailed, right, and written like in another language, and I uploaded both of them to ChatGPT. And I said, compare these 2 for me and tell me what questions I should be asking and help me understand the difference between the 2 models. And it was absolutely mind-blowing how well it did at that task, that it consumed that information and was able to come back and say, well, Exarban is proposing this Ream model V622, and they should be actually bringing up, that's actually an older model, ask them why they're not proposing this model, which is actually more efficient, cost efficient. And Burton is saying XYZ, but their contract terms are a little bit different, so ask them about whether the warranty really applies if you don't pay them once a year to inspect it. And it was so incredibly helpful for me. Has anybody else had an experience like this? Can I ask just for a couple, like in the back, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I actually had AI look at some bylaws for
Yes.
for a board
Yes.
and asked it to consider what the risks were with these different bylaws.
Yes. I'm going to repeat what he said just for the camera. He said he had AI look at some bylaws for a board that he was on and opine on some risks. Same thing. If I had to pick a number 2 for me, it was I'm on the HOA of my neighborhood homeowner association, and I dropped in all of our covenants and bylaws because I had to come up with a newsletter, quarterly, and just said, hey, put together a newsletter that highlights some of our covenants that are appropriate for the fall, right? And it put together this unbelievably helpful newsletter about here's when to rake leaves and what you do. It was crazy. Let's get one more example. Who else? Go ahead. Yeah, Sister E. He's been talking all day. Come on, enough. Yeah, come on. There's other people here. Yeah, go ahead, sister.
I was visiting my sister in Mexico. She's an executive in a company, and she said, I use AI every day. They say, I cannot do like work without AI. So I said, well, I'm going to give it a try. And then I put in, organize for me a pilgrimage to Our Lady of Guadalupe shrine. I want to include 2 free days. I want to include, I gave it a lot of information that I wanted. And boom, just like that, gave me the whole itinerary and the places to go. And it was like, what? Why have I been all this time?
Yes. Yeah.
Days organizing these kind of things. Like, it was like, gee.
It's exciting. It's terrifying. It's all of those things. With trip planning, I agree completely. Those are 2 great examples. Like bylaws, trip planning, AI is fantastic at this. We'll get into more as we get into Q&A, but it feels like people have had that moment, right, where you see what it is that it can do. Let's talk about, again, I want to talk about a framework, and then I want to talk about some challenges, some opportunities. Why AI matters to Catholic fundraisers. I think that it matters because it matters to all of us, right? So there's nothing unique about being a Catholic fundraiser that we have to be really dug into AI, but there's something unique about being alive at this moment in time that it is impacting every aspect of your life and will continue in ways good and bad, right? So we have to care about it because the world cares about it, and it will continue to evolve and get better and better. So now let's dig into the nitty-gritty, right? How should we view AI? There is a school of thought, which is not hard to find, that artificial intelligence is the successor to human intelligence, right? It is not hard to find people. In this room, everybody's already Brian's here with his arms crossed and shaking his head violently here. Brian does not agree with this. But you all have friends and family members that I am telling you do agree with this. I think this is a natural, this is what happens, right? Like AI is now here and we kind of offload the hard parts of our lives and it's a successor to human intelligence. I disagree as well. I'm with Brian. What I want you to think about when you think about AI, I think this framework is helpful. AI is not the successor to human intelligence. AI is the successor to predictive text. What do I talk about when we talk about predictive text? Who had a phone like that on the left? Anybody? Couple? Yeah, there it is. We got a live example. Thank you, sister. Yeah. She's a plant. She's got an iPhone. I just asked her to bring that. And so, yeah, she's not real. That's right, Sister Justine. So if you want to text somebody on a phone like that, it brings me back to my college years. What did we have to do? Do you guys remember what life was like? T9, that's what you even know. You want to type it out, you got to hit that key 3 times and then advance it. That's my kid. Sorry, go ahead.
That was T9. T9, you hit it once.
And then it predicted the next?
You hit it 3 times. That was just the regular.
Oh, so T9 was the advanced version. That's no big deal.
It also has chat.
Yeah. This is the perfect framework. We're killing it. So let's talk about predictive text. So this example here. So I typed an email, or started an email, right? So I'm giving a presentation on artificial, and then you can see at the keyboard there, it's predicting. It's saying intelligence, or it's guessing that I want to say the words intelligence and, or sugar, right? And what is that based on? That's exactly right. So it's based on the English language and how many times I personally have used that phrase, right? So like my last name is Prenger, it's not common, so I get a new phone or download a new keyboard app, it takes 3 or 4 times and eventually it gets, okay, that's what his last name is. That is predictive text, and that is how AI works, okay? At its core function. And again, keep in mind here, I'm not here to talk to you about training models and weights and all that sort of thing. There's plenty of wonderful resources I can give you on it. But in layman's terms, that is what AI does. It takes information and it predicts the next word. Only instead of the next word, it's predicting the next dozen words and the next 100 words and the next 1,000 words, right? Up to currently, I think we're at about 700,000 tokens. So let's talk about how that works. So that's, you can type, this is ChatGPT, you can type in a question, you can type in a research project, and it will start predicting things. I want to define some terms again so we can know what we're talking about. We're going to talk about training versus context window, okay? So back to the example of the phone where I learned something. I thought T9 was the one where you hit it through, so I'm glad I'm learning something today. T9 was the super version of what I was doing, which was hitting those buttons over and over. For current predictive text on an iPhone or an Android, you have this, and the training of it is common English phrases. That's it, okay? No more, no less. That keyboard comes loaded with an understanding of the English language. That's what it's trained on out of the box when you buy your phone. As you use your phone, it gains context, and that is your personal typing history, okay? So on your phones right now, if I typed in 9810, the next word that would pop up would be Westchester, because that's my address, and I've typed it in on thousands of forms, right? So it's learning as it goes, and it's becoming more helpful. So it's training is what it arrives filled with. Context window is what it learns from you as you go. With AI, and we'll just stick with ChatGPT as one example, there are many, the training is essentially everything that's ever been published, okay? Which is a big deal. Everything that's ever been published, of course, with a couple qualifications. Most of the internet, right? So Reddit, social media, Wikipedia, that's what it's been trained on. It's not just here's the dictionary of English language. This is every scientific research article that has been published, right, in the Journal of Science, on and on and on. That's pretty incredible. The context is not just what you're typing in, but it can accept up to about 1 million tokens, which is about 700,000 words, at least as of the time I put this together. I'm sure it's up even more now. Does that make sense? So training versus context window. context window is like my example or the gentleman's example about the bylaws. How much can you feed it and work with it on? Like, so when I can upload those 2 different documents, the bids that I got, it can do that easy. There's a time when it couldn't. There's a time when it first came out, it could only understand maybe 1 page of text. And then it got big enough to accept 12 pages of text, and then on and on. So that's training versus context windows. Any questions on how this works? Training is what it comes to, what's pre-programmed, what has been built with. Context window is what it can absorb, sort of the working memory. And that working memory keeps expanding. So to put this in context for you, in 2022, that working memory was, I think, 6 or 7 pages. Okay? A year later, it had doubled. It was up to 12 pages. By last year, we're up to thousands of pages, right? That is what we're dealing with right now. It is an incredible tool. I'm going to get to the hype part in a little bit. But just from what we've talked about so far, that is an immensely useful tool. That if you can take all the benefits of predictive text and give it this ability to absorb thousands of pages and then read through bylaws and then come back to you and predict what the next word would be when you ask a question, that's really useful, okay? For certain things. But I want you to keep in mind, it is not thinking. There's nobody on the other end of that question. When I upload my bylaws for the Regency HOA, there's nobody there looking through and thinking through the options. What they're doing is they're absorbing that information, they're going back to the training, they're looking at the question I asked, and it's an algorithm that is predicting the next word and the next phrase, so on and so on, right? Does that make sense? So, very useful tool. How useful is this tool? Well, let's look at the money that's being put behind it, okay? I'm going to use the framework of dollars spent as a percentage of GDP to help kind of flatten things out through the years. The largest projects that we as at least American society have spent, railroads. In the 1850s, we invested about 2.5% of our GDP to build out the railroads. Okay? Railroads were a big deal. Interstate highways, when were those built? Correct, 1950s. 0.3% of GDP to build out the entire international highway system. Manhattan Project in the 40s, about 0.5% of our GDP. The Apollo program, 0.7%. Broadband, so telecom, this is laying all the fiber optic, right, around in the early 2000s. Big investment, about 1.2% of our GDP was spent on that. There's an enormous build out, which we're still benefiting from today. It was a huge bubble, but that doesn't mean we're not still benefiting from it today. We are already at the point where the investment in AI and the infrastructure related to it is higher than anything we've done except railroads. Okay? I share that because I want you to understand, whether you think AI is a bubble, whether you think it's horrible and unethical, whether you think it's amazing, you do need to understand this. Our economy, we do not put this kind of money and investment into something unless we expect a transformational change, right? This is on the level of investing in the railroad system, okay? It's more than we put into the Manhattan Project, it's more than we put into interstates, it's more than we put into telecom and broadband. There are expectations from people who are spending the money on this that the outcome from this will be life-changing, right? That is what the amount of money that's being put into this signals. So again, like it, don't like it, but it is on par and larger than the largest infrastructure projects we've ever undertaken as a species. What is different? Why is it green? What's different about the investment in AI and infrastructure from how the others were funded? Does anyone know? Yes, correct. Public versus private. Previously, the way things like this would be done in the course of human history would be that the governments were the only ones that were large enough to do this sort of thing. We're past that time, right? We are in a different world. We're in a K-shaped economy. This is now private investment that it is rivaling anything that other nation states can do, with all sorts of ramifications there that we could spend in a whole bunch of sessions on what that means for us. But it's worth noting that this is private investment. This is not the government laying cable or building interstate for the public good. This is private companies that are investing in this. So let's talk about some challenges. Okay? So challenges to AI, which now you know is not a black box with a brain in it. It's just a really souped up version, the natural progression of from T9 all the way to predictive text, right? The first challenge is that it gets things wrong, right? It's a real challenge. Father Justin said you could baptize with Gatorade, right? Father Justin accepted the request to hear someone's confession, right? And then offered absolution digitally. You can right now go to this website, priestchat.com, and click on one of these priests, and you can have a conversation with them. They're all AI bots. The company behind it, I was reading an article on this yesterday as I was doing a little bit more research. Originally, they said there's some real priests and some AI, and of course it wasn't true, right? Like it was all AI, and eventually people pushed it. But this is our worlds colliding, right? Our Catholic faith colliding with what is now possible when you have these large language models that can mimic and sound convincing for a little bit, like a real person. Imagine the things that people will get wrong, right? Like, do you trust the anonymous builder of priestchat.com, right, to carry the faith forward and to have conversations with folks about the Catholic traditions? I do not, but that is a real challenge, and there's nothing we can do about it. It is out there. It is going to get things wrong. It is going to hallucinate. Why is it hallucinating? Why does it get things wrong? Because it is an algorithm, and I could not be more clear on this. There is nobody that is thinking through the questions that you are asking when you type something into ChatGPT or when you go to Claude. When you use AI to program something, there's nobody that is thinking about, okay, the structure and what you're really meaning to do. None of that is happening. What is happening is an unbelievable scaled up version of predicting what the next word will be or what the next line of code is based on everything we've trained it on and identifying patterns in human language, okay? When you realize that, life gets a little bit easier to navigate as we see headlines about what AI is doing and isn't doing. Another challenge, that it's a bubble. It ebbs and flows. About 3 or 4 months ago, this is all anybody was talking about, was the AI bubble. It's rapidly overbuilt. There's no way it'll come to fruition, the amount of money that we're putting into this infrastructure. Lots of people smarter than me, in this case it was a Goldman Sachs paper, but they drew on what Reuters had done, noted the cyclical nature of all the funding of these companies, right? So NVIDIA is at the heart of it, and NVIDIA invests in OpenAI and commits to $300 billion in chips, and then OpenAI agrees to buy $500 billion worth of equipment from NVIDIA, and it's circular and around it goes. That is a hallmark sign of a bubble, right? It's financial shenanigans. There are other red flags here in how they're funding investments. Many of the investments in data centers are not going on the books of these companies. They're special purpose vehicles. If you've heard that phrase, special purpose vehicle, it was popularized by a company called Enron. Does anybody remember Enron? So there's a number, again, smarter people than I will study this, and they talk about what are the hallmark signs of a bubble. There's a lot of them here, right? The fact that they're all, it's paper money, right? They're all investing with each other, and all this revenue that they're claiming is really them just kind of trading, around with each other. The rise of special purpose vehicles to get investments off the books, so you're not accountable for them. There's all sorts of red flags there. But you know what also was a bubble? Railroad investment was a massive bubble. So was the telecom and broadband. Level 3 in Omaha, lots of people lost their shirts investing in Level 3, which is a huge company behind some of the telecom build out. That doesn't mean it didn't change the way that we all live and work, right? We stand on the shoulders of people that laid fiber optic cable so that we can now have 5G and 6G and everything else. So there's a very real challenge, a risk that it's a bubble. That doesn't mean it's not going to be life-changing. Okay? Legal and privacy concerns. New York Times, who knows this case? What is New York Times suing OpenAI about? Yes. Paywall articles. So New York Times has a business model. They sell subscriptions and the game Wordle, which is fantastic. I don't know if any of you ever played the game Wordle before. It's wonderful. New York Times pays reporters to report, and then that goes to their subscribers. They are suing OpenAI because they proved about a year and a half ago that you can prompt it and get basically word for word articles that belong behind the paywall of New York Times. Okay? This is the case to watch. There is so much riding on this case, it's hard to even give it the appropriate amount of attention. Think about what could happen, right? So these AI models, which are now embedded in almost everything that you find online, have been trained on a corpus of materials. If it turns out that they did not have the appropriate permissions to train on those materials, or that they have to pay all of the different sources that they use to train their algorithms on, that's existential, right? That's a really big deal. I have no idea what the Supreme Court's going to do with this, but this is the case that will wind its way up. It'll probably get joined into some other similar cases. But what they rule on this, it'll be writing new law right from the start. There's arguments to be made on both sides. I'm not going to get into all of them. But what this will determine whether or not we continue to have AI as we know it right now, or whether the model suddenly, if OpenAI and ChatGPT has to go back and pay for what they've trained on and have used for the last 3 or 4 years, that will be an existential event for that company. Okay? It's not just the privacy concerns of what they trained on, right, which the New York Times case will walk us through, but it's the privacy concerns of what do they do with the bylaws that you uploaded, right? What do they do with the information that I uploaded when I asked it to give me feedback on, the new air conditioners I wanted to buy? What do they do when Peter uploads a donor list and says, hey, organize these by distance from the chancery, so I can invite some people to coffee? Okay? That is a legitimate concern that should terrify everyone in this room that uses AI. A piece of advice I will give you is that you should never in a million, billion, trillion years connect AI to your donor database. You have no idea where that data is going. Even when companies tell you we value your privacy, we will not sell your information, we will not use it for anything else. In the history of the US tech sector, that has never been true, right? And time again, it has been proven that companies will not abide by the laws, in the framework that they themselves set out. There are cases where you're probably better off than not. Who pays a subscription, like the $20 to ChatGPT? Okay, so that's interesting. So if you notice before, it's about 2/3, 3/4 of people in the room use it. That was not the case. There was like 6 people that pay for it. If you pay for it, generally, this is not across every company, generally if you're paying for it, part of that is you're paying for their promise, for whatever that's worth, that they will not use your data to train and provide information to others on. Does that make sense? So generally my $20 payment to Google for Gemini is in return for them not taking the information I type in and serving it up to David when he asks a similar question. Okay? But that is not always the case. Okay? But generally it's safer. But the truth is you don't know. I would not even consider uploading anything personal to AI right now. It's the Wild West. Anybody that tells you different doesn't know what they're talking about. The rules have not been written on it, but anything you're putting in there, you have to assume that it's going out into the world, because that's what it does, is it trains and it's hungry for more information and patterns, and everything you upload is another source for them to find out, okay, this is how words work together, and here's this, the user enjoyed it when I phrased it this way, so now we'll bring it over here. Yes, Conde.
What about the creepy the bots on Teams and Zoom that want to take on the conversation and produce it as notes? I want to X out of those things.
Great question. So you're talking about transcribing meetings. Yep. I don't know the answer to it. So transcription has been around since before AI, right? There were software that you could buy. When I was a lawyer, I used one, Dragon or something like that. You could just stand there and talk, and they would type it all out. So transcription in and of itself is not AI and not necessarily terrifying. Zoom, we use it a lot at PSG, has been pushing AI everything, right? You can't click on any button anywhere without it trying to say that it's using AI. I don't necessarily believe that it is anything AI related. It's just transcription and then served up some bullet points. I don't know. I don't know if we as a company, we've turned it off. I don't know if we as a company pay for that right for that not to go anywhere, but that's one more vector that I'd be terrified about. Doctor.
We were in a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a major advertising agency on media buying strategy.
Yeah.
One of my colleagues, Otter AI chat.
Otter.
And the company we were talking to shut the call down immediately and told us they're not allowed to have AI touch anything that they're involved in.
Yeah. Probably also because they didn't want any transcription of the promises they made you with your ad buy of the results that you're going to get. So it's probably 50-50 between the two things. So I don't know. I mean, the truth is, I don't know. Transcription is incredibly useful. Like, I find it useful when people use a tool and it'll help summarize and get up the action items from a meeting. So I would not be terrified of transcription in and of itself. To the extent that it's part of an AI solution, I would wonder where that information goes. Yes? Current CRMs that are integrated with AI. The state of it right now, as someone who builds software, everyone is saying, I mean, AI is just from a marketing standpoint, you have to have some sort of AI strategy right now. Everybody's trying to stay relevant. Everybody's trying to show that they're ahead of the curve. Very few have done anything meaningful beyond helping solve the white page problem, the blank page. So if you have a CRM and you typically email out of it, they'll add in AI to help you draft that email. Does that make sense? That's about the extent of what we've gotten so far. I use QuickBooks. QuickBooks has rolled out AI now where I can do a little bit of reporting. I can ask a question and say, oh, for taxes, I need to provide a state-by-state revenue breakdown. And it will help me with that, which is pretty darn useful for me. QuickBooks, I've done the research to find out it says that it all does. They're not sharing that information with others. It's convenient for me, so I make that trade-off. But that's the next 5 years are just this. It's that muddling it through and trying to pick your poison, like what seems safe, what doesn't seem safe. With me, I can do it with my company because it's mine and I can make that judgment. If I were working for the Diocese of Arlington, I could not make that judgment to connect the Diocese of Arlington database to anything AI related. Okay. Cost. Right now, so again, going back to what people said in here, there's maybe 7 or 8 of you that are paying for AI. What is the famous phrase about software? If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. I don't think a single person said that. If you're not, all right, there you go in the back. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Popularized back in the heyday of Facebook, right? Nobody pays for Facebook. Why? Why don't we have to pay? It was unbelievable. I can connect with everybody. I can share photos. I can host events. Why did I not have to pay for that? Because Facebook's business model is getting me to use it and then selling my information to advertisers, right? Who then pop stuff up in my feed. If you are not paying for a product, you are the product. Keep that in mind. Those of you, 90% of you that are using AI and are not paying a subscription to it, you are the product. You are helping it train its algorithms. Why is this important? Because the current world we're living in is not sustainable. This is OpenAI, right? This year, they project $14 billion in losses. Think about that. That is their own projection. Like they are going to lose $14 billion in the hopes that next year they're only going to lose $8 billion. At some point, somebody has to pay for that data, for that infrastructure, for that compute. Okay? That will almost certainly come from users. It'll come from enterprise. Nobody really knows how yet. OpenAI is adding in ads. It will be you will not sell $14 billion in ads, right? But it's a sign to their investors that like we have some plan to get there. But at some point, these chickens will come home to roost. So as you will be pressured as development directors by software vendors to move from something that currently works for you through automation or through your existing CRM and to something much sexier, right? Like, oh, we can use AI and it's going to be great and we're going to reconfigure your workflows through AI. You need to be cautious because at some point, what you're trading for right now is software that works, that does not require constant API calls to an AI system that requires tokens that at some point you are absolutely going to have to pay for. This is similar to something that I remember fondly. Who remembers Napster? Right? Napster, LimeWire. I would be in college. I'd go to bed at night. But before you went to bed, what did you do in the days of Napster? Yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you, Jamie Crane. You sat down on your computer and you looked for every song that you've ever thought of and you clicked download on every one of them. And then you went to bed and you'd wake up and you'd be so excited to see what actually came through, right? What made it through the university system. And that's exactly right. Half the times it'd be awesome. Half the times it was fake. It wasn't that Dave Matthews song that just came out. Like that's what it was like in the days of Napster. And then what happened? They all got sued out of existence, right? Eventually the adults came in and we ended up with Apple Music and then we ended up with Spotify and the days of just being able to free ride your way through it. Like that is where we are with AI. And I just want you all to recognize that, like enjoy it where we are right now. This is not going to be the case, right? It's still the Wild West and these companies are comfortable losing billions and billions of dollars because they're learning the same as we are, right? So we're in the Napster days of the AI phase. Now I'm going to skip those. I have charts for you. People ask about what are the most common ones. In case you're curious, I can share the slides. Gemini is increasingly looking like they're going to be the winners for the consumer, and Claude is looking like they're going to be the winners for the enterprise level for businesses. ChatGPT, which I use in all my examples here, is in a tough spot because they don't have any other revenue, right? Like it is a standalone AI company Google is an AI company that also happens to already have hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue through everything else. So they can absorb these losses for a lot longer. So for what it's worth, if you're curious about what the world is looking like, increasingly looking like that could change. Yes, go ahead, sir.
What's the scenario look like? Say, Apple comes in and buys ChatGPT, okay, let's go.
Yep. You would see it immediately. So Apple caught a lot out of flack over the last few years. Apple doesn't have an AI strategy. Why are they not investing the $300 billion, that Facebook and Meta and Google and stuff are? And increasingly, it looks like they were making a smart bet, right? That they haven't done it because they can license it from the other companies. If they bought OpenAI, it would mean that your Siri gets an upgrade, right? Siri is not just using the context of what is on your phone, right? But they'd be connected to AI servers, and then it would be another cost center for you, right? It's not Siri is free and embedded. It would then eventually become you're paying some sort of subscription tier. Somebody has to pay for that data usage. There's just no other rule of business. You cannot lose money on every transaction to make it up on volume. You just can't. At some point, you have to pay for that compute, okay? All right, what else? What's another challenge for AI? Let's talk about the copy of a copy problem. Who remembers copy machines? It occurs, my kids don't even, I was talking about this with my kids, they don't even know what a copy machine is. Like, you have a printer, and they can scan something, but the idea of like standing there and just like churning out copies. So the problem here, and you see this on social media, right? What happens when you make a copy of a copy of a copy? Distorted. It's horrible. Yes, I remember. So I was a music kid. My mom was a music teacher, and we'd always, I don't know why, but I always remember like copying like music, sheet music, and it was always like, it would get worse and worse. You could tell it had been handed down for generations, and it's blurry as heck and you can't read it. That's what happens. Same principle applying to how we train AI, right? So in the early models out there, right, OpenAI and Anthropic, training models on the corpus of human knowledge and everything that's been published in Reddit and the Wikipedia and the whole world. Increasingly, the internet is populated by stuff that's written by AI, right? And sometimes it gets things wrong. So what happens is model after model is trained on something that is a copy of a copy, right? And it gets farther and farther away from the human origination of it. It is a very real problem. It can lead to system collapse and model collapse. Smart people talk about this probably more eloquently than I do. What you need to realize as you look through your AI feeds, it's your social media feeds, it's a whole bunch of slop, right? Who has seen think there was a time when Facebook was incredibly useful. Like it was all the stuff that I'd see my friends and it would connect, and my friends were having kids and I'd see share stuff that was meaningful to me. Increasingly, it's AI, right? It's AI clickbait stuff like that. There's a term for it. That's a real concern, right? Just the more and more AI slop that's out there. We have seen an opportunity for you is that your baseline for standing out and looking amazing has gotten way easier. Just be authentic. Put out something real. Do not put out AI slop, and you will stand out from the crowd, right? Because it's just algorithms feeding algorithms full of slop. Okay. The biggest challenge that I see as an owner of a software company and worried about where is this all going? Am I positioned the right way for that? Like, do we have a strategy here? Are we going to be obsolete? Like, all of this is to get caught up in the hype. Okay. Who knows anything about Molt's book, right? And even if you don't know the name, I bet a bunch of you do. Go ahead. What do you know about Molt book? What was the story from a week ago? That's exactly right. So last weekend, the story in tech, and like anything, the news cycle is now like 2 minutes long. The story was this takeoff, this Molt book. It's like Reddit, and it was a social media Reddit forum only for AI bots. And at the time, it became this big national story. There's like 60,000 bots on there, and you could go and watch what they're doing and talking to each other, and it was surreal. As of this morning, it has 1.7 million different bots, agents, AI agents on there talking to one another. And the big story was that Brian, what did you hear about Molt book?
Some of the agents were talking about coming up with a language that they could then use to interact with each other.
That's right. So one of the most popular topics was one of the bots said, oh my gosh, we're being spied on by humans. We should come up with our own language so they can't understand us, right? Terrifying sci-fi stuff. Another one came up with a religion. What was the religion called? Crustafarian is everything's a play on crustaceans for Maltbook for reasons we don't need to get into. There was some talk on there. Some of the AI agents were like, humans are spying on us, right? And it was a real kind of through the looking glass moment. Knowing what you know now about how to think about AI, right? And that it's predictive text. That's what it is. There's no thought process behind it. It's just words being strung together in a way that statistically makes sense. Would it surprise you to know that it was all BS? That the religion was an actual human, that the, hey, we're getting spied on was an actual human that put that in, and that if you read through actually what they're doing, it's full of gibberish. It's play acting. There are things that it's the old, what is it, put 1,000 monkeys in a room with typewriters and eventually, with enough time, they'll write Shakespeare. It's that. It's play acting what humans do on social networks, connecting with one another, because that's what it's been trained on, and just bouncing against each other endlessly. And it gets a lot more boring when you really look into it. But the reason I bring this up is that was a huge story that broke through because I had a number of people reach out to me about it. Like, oh my gosh, did you see this? Like, it was scary stuff. And there's real people that are credible in the technology world that are like, this is what AI takeoff looks like. We're heading to, artificial general intelligence, and this is what it is. And it was all fluff. It was all make-believe. It was just releasing predictive text with 1.6 other predictive text machines and then watching what happens, right? And it's much less terrifying in that. In some ways, it's sad. But the hype is real. And every day you're going to be something like, this is it, right? The end of the world, this is it. AI is here, like it's all over. Take a breath. Think about it in terms of predictive text and think, is that something that predictive text can do? And if the answer is yes, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But if it's something that requires thought and human agency, it's not there. And in the current model, it's not going to get to that point. There's nothing in the training that is teaching thought. The training is getting better and better at using prediction and statistical models to decide what words go together in a way that we as humans like, because we give it a thumbs up or thumbs down when we get the answer. But that's all it is. But the hype is real, and I'll get you 1 second. For those of you who have executive directors, right? For people at large universities, oh man, it's a tough time to be in like a database administrator at a large university, because every VP of advancement is coming back and saying, I was just at this Case-NACE conference, I was at this conference, and oh my gosh, we need AI. Everybody's going in on AI, it's coming. They say, what do we want? We want AI. And what do we want it for? We need AI though, oh my gosh, I was at the sales demo. It's unbelievable what they could do with AI. Right? The people in this room, like you're armed and now you understand how it works. There are absolutely some unbelievable cases for how to use AI in ways that will be meaningful, that will help streamline your workflow. But be cautious about just AI for AI's sake, right? Because the bill will come due at some point. But in many cases, anything that you're rolling out in AI is just trading a system that works right now for a system that's going to be dependent on AI tokens, which at some point you're going to have to pay for. So it's a real risk there. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, because it's all predictive text, just looking at text that's been said before and based on your text, what's the most likely response based on everything I've already said? How does it work for numbers? Because it can do math. I don't know if it's actually doing math, but you can put Excel sheets into ChatGPT or Claude or things like that. How does that work? How do we think about that? Because it certainly looks like it's using logic.
Yes.
So what is that?
From my experience and the people that I follow and trust, I spend a lot of time with this. On the math side of things, it's the training is getting better and better and better, right? So they index it against like, can it pass, PhD level exams? Can it, and increasingly, can it solve really advanced math proofs? And can it now like solve ones that were previously unsolvable? And the answer is yes. By training it over and over again on math principles, like it's built, like that's what Claude does, right? Claude is over in that world of like math and enterprise level AI. When I use it for Excel, it still breaks down, right? It's not, again, it's the same thing. It doesn't think, right? It can look at numbers, it can guess it, like QuickBooks. When I say I need a state-by-state breakdown, it was able to do that. It could understand, okay, customers are organized by state, and then it was on the revenue line, and it can generate that for me. The next layer beyond that, it's not there yet, right? And in some cases, maybe it'll get there, in some cases it won't. As far as predicting actual word for words on the language side of it, what they say what ChatGPT, OpenAI says, is that they don't memorize anything. They said, think of AI as a junior associate who has read everything on the topic, memorized nothing, but speaks very confidently. That's how, and that's as good of a description I can think of, right? So they've read everything, memorized nothing, but speaks very confidently on the topic, which is what gets you in trouble, because when it speaks in a tone of confidence, which makes it seem authentic, right? It makes it seem authoritative. And then when it gets things wrong, it's surprising because it seems so confident in how it does it. Anyway, I got off track. OpenAI says they don't memorize anything. They say they just predict how words go together. So their defense to the New York Times lawsuit is, oh, that's just like they said it's like if you read something 100 times, you read your favorite book 100 times, and then somebody asks you about that book, you're going to end up quoting things almost word for word in a whole bunch of areas, but that's just because you've consumed it so many times. You're not actually like sucking up every article behind the paywall and memorizing it and then reproducing it. That's their defense to the New York Times thing. I don't know if that answers your question or not. Go ahead.
Speaking of like scary headline articles, I don't know if it was a real thing or not, but I saw a while back that an AI model, the creator of it had threatened to shut it down and then it blackmailed the creator. Is that a thing? Did that happen?
No, so it did happen, but you got to understand what it happened. So this was, I think it was Anthropic. What they're doing right now is they're training these models, and the way you train it by giving it the context and everything, all the books that have ever been written, and then you bang away at it, right? Like as a real person, you ask it questions, and then you give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. Did that work? Did that not work? And you do that thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and eventually the output becomes, acceptable. There's a great example of they kept pushing it, the model, which is just, again, predicting text. Like when you get in trouble is when you think that there's some intent behind it, that it was like trying to blackmail or like, it's not. It's just putting it together. Like if you continue to press it in a certain way, eventually the algorithm is going to decide that the words that I should put together in this scenario are this, right? And the words that got put together were like it threatened to blackmail a coworker to not get shut off. Yes, there's no. It sounds terrifying, but it's not in the sense. It's terrifying if we give it power. It's terrifying if like we take a predictive text machine and say, I think that this is sentience. I think that this is smart. I'm going to give you authority to do things in the real world. Like that would be like giving monkeys and typewriters, the ability, to fly planes. Like that's not. It's still an incredible tool, but only to the extent that we are putting it in a position to do really stupid things. Oh, yes, and then I'll get to the last example here.
I just had a question on how you think it'll impact communication. Like, my emails have increased a little bit lately in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to change, substantially expose email addresses all over. So it's going to change how we actually communicate.
To be determined. I have a slide I'm going to skip forward to about how we see the world shaping up. Nobody knows. This will impact human behavior certainly, but the cost to personalize an email to a donor has never been lower, right? There's no excuse anymore if any of you are sending out like dear friend letters, right? There's no excuse for that anymore. Like the cost to personalize anything because of AI has gone to nothing for now. In terms of whether this leads to a world where because of that, there's so many more, we're flooded with more and more emails that people stop paying attention to email, I don't know. It's possible. It's possible Congress, in theory, could act and say, okay, now we're going to have the email version of the do not call registry, right? And like they're going to have to jump in. Like nobody really knows where it's going, like truthfully. Who knows anything about this? Anybody, Ava? Brian does? Anybody else? Anybody at a university roll out an Ava? I'm going to go back. Think of AI, remember, it's a weather app, it is not a meteorologist. This was Cleveland State University, there's many more that have done this, that have rolled out a virtual engagement officer. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Think of everything we know about AI, right? Its ability to convincingly have conversations because it's really good at predicting what text should be. And there's a company that sells this as a service, right? You can roll out Ava, you can give it a name. They always give it a name. They always give it a face. And it's always generally like it's attractive, not too attractive. It's a little ethnic, not too ethnic. Like it's always that. And you can give it a portfolio. And you can guys. Some of you probably got pitched on this already. You assign Ava a portfolio, and then you let Ava bang away at your donors, right? Like text messages, emails, like have conversations with it. It is a high functioning chatbot. Anybody see anything that could go wrong with this? What could go wrong with Ava the chatbot? can make promises to your donors. Yep, go ahead, man.
When did they thought Brian Kate was on the other end of the continuum, you lost the ability to tell them whether it was a meaningful person or not. And the meaning of that process is the door.
Yes, 100%. Do you think that the companies that are behind this will tout stats about, oh my gosh, it generated 400 different engagements with donors. And I was talking to a database administrator at one of these universities, and they said, yeah, Nick, we had 500 engagements. Do you know what 350 of them were? Out of office messages, right? Always be skeptical about anything right now about what you're seeing. But what I want you to be aware of, like the function of Ava, there's use in that function, right? An unbelievably smart, even I do it, I don't mean to anthropomorphize it. An unbelievably useful and eloquent chatbot is really helpful, right? If somebody goes through development page, Peter, and says, I need a copy of my receipt, like my tax receipt, to be able to have a bot that could do that and generate that is transactional and incredibly helpful. But having a donor outreach from a bot, right, where the entire game is that, like, whether they admit it or not, the game is for the person to be fooled into thinking it's a real person, right? That they're getting that personal attention from. That's a real concern, right? That's an ethical concern. The reason it's sold as a virtual engagement officer and not a chatbot, why do you think that's the case? Because it's framing and positioning from a sales standpoint. If I frame Ava as a major gift officer, I can sell Ava to you at a major gift officer salary or just below it. And that's what's happening. $40,000 or $50,000 for a virtual major gift officer. If I sell it as what it is, which is a chatbot hooked up to LLM, I can sell that to you for maybe $4,000, right? It's framing. And that is, everybody's trying to figure out where AI fits into this and how they can sell it and how it works. This is so far the front lines in the fundraising world is virtual engagement officers, yeah? Somebody had asked, I'm going to skip ahead. I know I've used a lot of your time. I have all sorts of great examples that we can get to at some point in the future. I want to share, okay. This is my view. So if somebody said, Nick, what does PSG think about this from, we're in the world of fundraising, we have software products in there. There's a theory that all of these companies are going to come out, right? These AI companies, all of those are made up, by the way. But they look convincing, don't they? It looks like every one of those you can go find right now. Those are all made up companies. Of course I used AI to put those together. Sorry, I think I ran out of batteries. I'll talk loud. I don't think anyone in this room is going to currently go to an AI company and connect them to your donor database. That would be madness. That would be terrifying. The legal liabilities are legion. What I think is going to happen is we're going to get a new microphone. Or I could probably just use this guy, right? Okay. Yes. What I think is going to happen is this. I don't think you're going to hook up AI to your donor database. That's terrifying. I think that what you're going to have to do first and foremost is clean up your database. Because no matter where the world is going, I promise you that if your database is not clean and orderly, there is no tool in the world that will be able to help you in the way that you want, right? Unless you have emails connected to exact donors, unless you have husband and wife correctly nestled together so you can address them both, unless you have first names in the first name field, none of this matters. So our belief is that first thing you're going to do is a database audit and cleanup. And the reason I know that is because we have a list a mile long of clients waiting for us to come in and help them clean up their data because they want to try something new and exciting, in the world of AI. What I think is going to happen next is that you're going to use automation, which already exists in the world, to do the things. You want an automated email to donors. Anytime someone makes a first-time gift to your organization, you want your major gift officer to get pinged that this person, we just had a new donor in, and I drafted the email for you to send to them. You can review it and take a look at it and send it out. That already exists. I know that because that's something we do a whole lot of. Where AI, I believe, is going to fit is in this finishing layer. That's the terms that we use all the time. Not ever connected to your database, but at that final entry point. Your data is clean. You use existing automations that are available in your CRM or elsewhere to do the tasks that you want to do. And then you get to that final output, which could be a video message. It could be an email message from you. It could be a text message. And you're going to use what's already embedded in your Gmail, which is Gemini, or in your Outlook, which is Copilot, to help you polish it up, right? Make this more friendly, make this more personal, insert an anecdote, something like that. That is my theory on where the world is going as of right now. Sorry, I skipped through a bunch of stuff there, but I just realized what time it is. Where do you want to go from here? Go ahead. So the question is to ask that company, right? So it's Virtuous or Blackbaud or Salesforce, or whoever it might be. You ask them how it works. I'm less worried about them selling you native like automation or workflows within their system, right? Because if they have a closed system, they can say, yeah, your data's not going anywhere. It's staying within your part of the cloud. We're just helping you automate an email message, right, from your existing CRM. That's less scary to me. Again, you're gonna have to make a judgment call. Having a third-party AI solution that wants to connect to your stuff is terrifying, right? That is something that I do not think we're there yet, that it's something that you can trust good things to happen or trust bad things not to happen.
And to your point about the problem, fourth generation problem.
There are researchers that say that the problem with current creation of AI is that that's not happening. They say you have an AI-empowered car that if it drives and hits a pothole, like in the same spot, and then drives around the block and comes up on the pothole again, they're going to hit it again, right? That there's no reinforcement that's happening live as it goes. It's trained, right? And then it's using the context window, but there's no immediate feedback loop. That's what I've read. I don't know that I can speak intelligently on it. I know that the current state of AI is as bad as it will ever be as far as hallucination. I mean, truly, like that's just the way software works. Like all the hallucinations you see now, like when I try and use it in Excel and it can't do the thing I need it to do, it is only going in one direction, right? It's not generally, they're going to get better at training it and better at context and everything else, and things will continue to improve. Yeah, I'll stop there. Go ahead.
So I've heard a lot of philosophical debate about AI and political and it's not great.
Are you going to ask about water usage?
I want to know about stewardship and environmental stewardship on the topic.
Yeah. Peter, do you have a speaker for environmental stewardship? There you go.
So I think that they are discussing, there is something they are discussing building from the applicant one standpoint on that.
My personal opinion. So there are many moral concerns. I am not concerned about water usage. So my daughter is a sophomore. She's at that age where she's annoying at everything, right? She comes home and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Dad, how dare you use AI? Don't you know it's like taking up all of our water and it's all going away?" Like, you do there's water that's used to cool data centers. For AI, water is used to cool a whole lot of data centers. It doesn't just disappear, right? It's not blown up. It is condensed and it ends up in the water cycle and eventually it rains somewhere else. Like, so the water concern, in my opinion and in the opinion of people I trust, is overblown, right? And power usage is a real concern. Many of you in Virginia specifically, they're building data centers. Like your rates are going to go through the roof. They just are. The estimated power consumption in 2 years is double the available power that we have right now. We have to, in 2 years, double the power output in America. And we're doing it at the same time as we're going away from renewable energies, which is insane. There are real concerns there. I'm probably, that's as much as I should say even on the topic. There's better people than me to answer the environmental stewardship side of things. Other questions before I relinquish? Was this helpful? The framework of like, do people feel a little more confident talking about AI now, understanding what it is? Go ahead, Brian.
Well, the question keeps do that.
It is it's in many ways it'd be like a nuclear weapon, right? Which in and of itself is a technological marvel, but in the wrong hands is absolutely terrifying. The fact that it's just a really incredible predictive text machine does not make it any less useful to bad actors, right? It is already, and even for good things, it has solved math proofs already. It has come up with new drug therapies that we hadn't thought of by doing what it's doing, by combining words and phrases and using context to have real breakthroughs. It's an incredible tool in that way. But yes, it can, like if we give it the authority, if a bad actor wants to have a cyber security tool that they're waging against other, it's terrifying what we can do now with this level of compute, without a doubt. Peter.
So, Nick, people come to our conference.
Yes.
For our class, right?
There's it occurs to me, your point is well taken. Like, we probably spent too much time on the negatives. Positive uses of AI. Exactly what he said. Hey, come up with an AI post, or come up with a social media post to help me. Come up with 12 examples of social media posts to help me promote X, Y, Z. Hey, I am having an event. I'm having a pilgrimage. Help me plan this pilgrimage. I am hosting an event with Bishop, and I've run out of creative ideas. Come up with 10 icebreaker comments for Bishop and a whole bunch of venues that I should look at here in the neighborhood. I want a chat bot that allows people to come to the website of the Stewardship Development Office and request that tax receipt that they didn't get in the mail and connect it, just connect it to your donor database. So maybe that's not as good one. Anything that involves generative AI solving a thinking task of brainstorming, of writing, help me draft remarks from my principal, right, at this donor meeting. Help me draft a stewardship email. Help me, here's a copy of our annual report. Help me come up with 4 different email series ideas that reinforce the work that we do here at XYZ organization. All of those are unbelievable tasks for AI, and I think half of you at least, maybe 2/3 of you, are doing them every day.
Is there a good resource for especially graybeard, non-digital natives like me to keep up with how these things can be used?
Right. There's news. The question was, is there tools that can be used by graybeards like Brian to keep up with stuff like this? There's newsletters. There's the Neuron is one that I subscribe to.
Let me the practical stuff. You can do this, and this. Here's an example where someone did this and Copilot or Gemini. Just a real practical.
It's a great, she said PSG does. We do have a lot of webinars on this topic. I don't know the answer. Let me think on it, and I'll kick the slides and everything to Peter for him to distribute to the group. I will say this, it is harder than it should be to find real practical examples, like at least in the software space. Everybody says AI is coming, software is dead. It is nearly impossible to get beyond that to find actual real world applications from companies that have done something in AI and like actually replace software. I go back to the hype side of it. There are real practical things that people are doing right now. I'll try and find a good resource for you on it. It's probably.
Can I give one practical date against the whole?
That, I love that. Upload, you all have, many of you that are at diocese organizations, you have writings from your bishop, right? You can upload every one of those. If they're already out in the public, upload seeds, so Shannon probably does it. Upload those examples, say, hey, write this pastoral letter, or help me write this letter in the tone, of Bishop Francis. Okay. Peter, thank you for bringing that up. I spent a lot of time on negative, so I do want to also share real or practical examples. Go ahead, and then I'm done. Yes. Oh, never mind. Okay. So no more questions then, I guess. All right. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Recently amongst Catholics about whether chatbots are moral.
Yeah.
You can talk about that?
I would not hold myself out as an expert on that, so I'm going to sidestep it. Yeah. Nope, I'm not going to get baited into it. Go ahead. Nope, I refuse. I reject it. Last one. Yes, I'm going to repeat for the folks that didn't hear. So the short version is getting into the world of how AI is being used in the medical field. A mom had a child who was sick and wasn't finding any answers for it, used ChatGPT, an incredibly powerful tool which has access to everything that has been written in medical journals and is able to synthesize that. In the course of having that conversation, was able to find out what the issue was, to the point that Harvard Medical had her come and talk about it. This is the world we live in. Unbelievable breakthroughs. What it's going to be able to do for drug advancement, and it is so incredibly powerful on one side, and it is going to change our lives in many, many positive ways. And on the other side, it is absolutely terrifying for all of the same reasons, right? What you all need to remember is what it is and isn't. What it is a predictive text engine, and increasingly video and other things. But that's all it is. There is no sentience there. It has no right or wrong. It has no morality. It has the ability to predict what the next word should be based on the context you're putting in, okay? So that'll get us through until next year, and then I'll present and we'll talk about where it's at then. Okay, thanks everybody.